Hi, Wanju. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we meet. For me, that's the Whadjuk Noongar people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present and to First Nations people everywhere in the spirit of reconciliation. I'm Belinda Smith. I work with Miralinga Parenting Service, supporting families, parents and children in the Southwest Metro region. Today's workshop is part of our Calm and Confident Parenting webinar series. We've got a whole series of these webinars on different topics, from babies through to teenagers, mindfulness, self-care, all sorts of different topics. So if you'd like access to the recordings for any of those, please do get in contact. We'd love to share them with you. So today's is self-care for mums, dads and carers. The workshop is built around hand-in-hand parenting's offerings and also the Raising Children website, which is the Australian Support for Parents website, and the Australian Childhood Foundation's offerings as well. We're going to be looking at the situation for parents, defining what self-care and self-compassion are, and then looking at some strategies for both of those things. Finally, I'm going to share with you the single most effective self-care and self-compassion strategy that I have yet to find. So firstly, the situation for parents. I think it's really important to start with this because so often we bring a lot of judgment and a lot of harshness towards ourselves when things get rocky as parents. But it's important to know that we love our kids, and that the situation that we find ourselves in often is not conducive to connected, warm and responsive relationships. We're in a really high pressure society and there's not a lot of space built into that for us to connect well with our kids. Parenting is really seen as something of a hobby. Most parents that I work with feel very isolated. Most, if not all, feel very exhausted, really overwhelmed, quite guilty, and there's a huge poverty of time. Parents are just under the pump. So the ingrained depressions that they might face also add to this complexity, bigger, broader systemic challenges like racism, poverty and sexism. So parents are, generally speaking, doing it pretty tough. Nonetheless, parents love their children deeply and make huge efforts to care well for them. As we do this important work, we really need and deserve appreciation and support. I know firsthand how hard parents try to improve on their own experiences. So we tend to take the things that we appreciate, that have worked well for us, and we try to improve on the things that didn't work so well for us. And as we do this important, nuanced, challenging work, we really deserve help. When we get that help, when we get that support, it's amazing what can happen. That caring can extend beyond our own families and we can really become leaders in our communities. So it's an investment that's well worth making. I want to really emphasise that while today's workshop is around self-care, this webinar, is around self-care, and we're also looking at self-compassion, that there are situations where it's absolutely impossible to, have enough massages or have enough me time to get us out of those situations. There are plenty of parents with multiple complex challenges that they're facing. So if you're in a situation like that, I would really encourage you to practice self-compassion and to reach for support wherever you can. So firstly, we're going to look at what self-care is. That looking after yourself or self-care is important in helping you with your physical, emotional and mental well-being. So self-care is any activity that you do voluntarily which helps you maintain your physical, mental or emotional health. And I think voluntarily is a key word there. Self-care is not something that we make ourselves do. It's something that fills us with joy. It's something that brings us a sense of lightness and peace and spaciousness. It's something that helps us to feel healthy, relaxed, and ready to shoulder the responsibilities of being a parent. What is self-compassion? Self-compassion is a really interesting thing because it's not necessarily something we do. It's more the way we see things. So it's about being kind to ourselves, even when we hit hurdles, when things don't happen the way we expect or the way we want. I often liken this to how would you view your friend in this situation? Or how do you view a friend who's parenting under difficult circumstances? I would imagine generally without judgment and with warmth, care, and understanding. So self-compassion is treating yourself with that same warmth, care, and understanding. And I think part of self-compassion is a really connecting element, and that's acknowledging that struggles and challenges are actually a huge part of life and that everyone goes through them. We're not alone. Finally, self-compassion is a skill. It's something we can practice, it's something we can learn about, and it's something we can get better at over time. The great thing about self-compassion is it benefits everyone. So I used to think it was letting myself off the hook a little bit. But in fact, what I've found over time is that if I can bring self-compassion to any given moment, it then allows me to show up more able to be the parent I want to be. And it also allows my children to learn that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be human, to forgive ourselves and to try to do better next time. We know that self-compassion is good for our children and for ourselves. It improves our mental health and well-being, and it can really reduce stress and anxiety. So overall, it's a fantastic investment to make to learn about self-compassion and to weave it into our days. We're going to look now at some strategies, some really simple ideas to weave these self-care, self-compassion elements into our days. The first one is the joy matrix. This is something that I return to again and again, and I use myself. So I recommend getting a piece of paper and drawing a grid with 9, 12, 16 squares on it, however many you think you might need. It's really a great little tool because it's one you can make your own. So what we're doing with this grid is that in each square you're writing a need or something that you need to be joyful, something that brings you happiness, something that fills your cup. I always start with sleep, water, and food. And that might sound a little bit strange, but I do remember in the early days how often I'd get to the end of a day with a baby and not have drunk any water at all, and have had very little sleep, and certainly not have eaten anything other than chocolate brownies or whatever was, right in front of me. So prioritizing sleep, hydration, and nutritious food is, of course, the basic building blocks of our well-being, but also connection. We know that connection is the fuel that drives all of our learning and development, drives our well-being. So connection with our children, with our partner, our friends, our family, connection with ourselves by way of creativity or inner peacefulness, positive self-talk, and any other thing that you need to have a joyful life, you can write in here. So in the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see a list of examples, exercise, meaningful work, switching off the phone, all of those things. You can choose which ones are most important to you or include all of them and add more. So you can make this as big or as small as you like. And what you do is laminate it potentially, stick it to the fridge, and then really gently and warmly keep yourself accountable. So each day, perhaps at the end of the day, having a glance at this bingo sheet of a joy matrix, and seeing how many of those squares you can tick off. Have I drunk enough water today? Did I get a good sleep last night? Have I eaten nutritious food today that I feel, good about? Have I had some connection time with my children? Have I had connection time with my partner, with my friends? Have I had a moment of creativity? Have I had a moment of peace and quiet to myself? And if at the end of the day you're only able to tick 1 or 2 or 3 boxes, then it's absolutely no wonder that things are tough. As I say, broader structural challenges can mean that no matter how many boxes we tick, things are still tough. But by ticking off lots and lots of these boxes, we can really increase our chances of a joyful life. There's a whole list of strategies on PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to read them out to you. Keeping a journal can be a beautiful way to practice self-care. It might be a reflective journal where you just reflect on what's happening. It might be a gratitude journal where you note down things you're grateful for. Or it might be something like a book of joy where you include images, memories, stories, anything that brings you joy. So those are a few ideas around journaling, and we know that journaling is a science-backed activity to support mental health and well-being, and also to support parents to enjoy parenting more. Being able to make a cohesive narrative out of our own experience is a fundamental way for parents to show up in ways they feel good about and to enjoy their parenting journey. Engaging with a hobby is a lovely way to practice self-care. Things like turning off your email and work phone outside of work hours is really powerful as a way to prioritize your own needs, and scheduling time for relaxation, to engage with friends and family, to get physical with sport, to get out in nature. Those things we can want to do, but get to the end of a week and not have done them. So scheduling them in with pen and paper can be a great way to help us make sure they happen. I've also included on this list of self-care strategies getting vulnerable, sharing how you're feeling with a safe person, because that's a really helpful way for us to learn that we're not the only one with challenges and to move through life a little bit lighter. So I really encourage you to find someone who can listen well to you and share with them how you're feeling. Self-compassion, as I said before, is more a way of being and a way of thinking than external strategies, but there is a 3-step process you might like to try to bring more self-compassion to your day. Firstly, you can pause and notice your thoughts. Secondly, remind yourself that raising children is a really big, really important job. It's complex, challenging, nuanced, delightful, exhausting work, and that you're doing your best. And that blame, guilt, and shame don't make things better for anyone. Step 3 is where we try to rewire our brains and do things differently. Say something kind to yourself, like, I'm trying my best. I'm learning as I go. My personal favourite is something like, I'm a good parent. I'm doing my very best given all the circumstances, and I don't deserve any judgment or criticism, least of all for myself. And I also like to hold a limit with myself. I'm not willing to judge or blame myself. That's really powerful to kind of take a stand and say, I'm not willing to judge or blame myself. I am going to be supportive and compassionate towards myself because I know that leads to best outcomes for me and my family. So we've covered some ideas around self-care and self-compassion, and I'd like to finally share with you the single most powerful tool I've found for integrating self-care and self-compassion into my life in a way that's really supportive and nourishing and nurturing. Hand-in-hand parenting teaches this tool. It's called Listening Partnerships, and it's a beautiful way for parents to counteract those feelings of isolation and overwhelm. It's a beautiful way for parents to problem solve and to figure out what's going on in their families. And when it's done as a practice regularly, it builds capacity, resilience, confidence. It's really wonderful. So what is it? Listening partnerships are an agreement between two parents to meet regularly, say once a week, and to swap equal time. So to do that, we use a timer. So we might have 30 minutes together. So I would take 15 minutes and my listening partner would take 15 minutes. We decide who's going to speak first, and then the listener just listens. This is quite different to what's generally done in our culture. We're normally listening to respond, listening to give advice, listening to fix. That's not the case here. What we're doing is really listening think of an intention to just offer our full attention with no interruptions, no fixing, no advice, and no judgment. We keep it really confidential and we don't refer back to anything that's said. The speaker uses this time to navigate whatever they really want to. They could work out their shopping list, they could work out their to-do list, or they might really delve into what's happening in their life. So listening partnerships for parents become over time a really safe space for us to figure things out. And the problem solving that we do in this time, how do we fit in our self-care? I think listening partnerships can be useful as well because they do tend to be scheduled in every Wednesday night. I meet this person for an hour, I get 30 minutes, he gets 30 minutes, and that's our swap, our time. But then within that, each week, I have a tailor-made space to take the stress out of parenting. I have a space where no one's going to interrupt me. I can just have a nap if I want to for that 30 minutes because it's 100% my time. I can have a cry if I need to. I can have a vent if I need to. And my listening partner will not try to fix things or convince me to see things a different way. They will just listen, just be with me as I work through all of that. So I think listening partnerships can become an incredibly powerful space for parents to build in self-care. And I also think over time, they really help with our self-compassion too, because we listen to our listening partner as well. And we come to learn that parents are really doing their best, always. And the compassion and the warmth that we bring to the person we're listening to, it really starts to seep in that we're that person too. We're doing our best and we deserve lots of support and kindness as we do it. If you're interested in listening partnerships, then I encourage you to attend a longer workshop, a 2-hour workshop with us. We often include them, or the hand-in-hand parenting starter class, which is conducted over 6 to 8 weeks. That's a beautiful way to get to grips with this tool and to seek out someone that you might like to do this with regularly. I'll also include some information in the email that I send about how to find a listening partner if that's of interest. Sometimes we do need extra help, and a counsellor or a mental health plan with psychologist is a great way to find that extra help. And things like parenting workshops, they are such a lovely way to build capacity, resilience and confidence for parents. The Gala Parenting Line, Beyond Blue, there's a lot of resources out there to support parents, and this handout, Resources for Parents and Carers, is towards the end of the PowerPoint presentation. You might like to have a look on that for some of the resources you can access. And there's also links to books that you might like to try. Listen by Patty Whitfler and Tosha Shaw is the book that presents the hand-in-hand parenting approach and details listening partnerships. Really recommend that one. It's available on Audible. You can probably get it from your local library. Mindful Parenting by Kristen Race, PhD, or Joy Fixes for Weary Parents. Those are 2 others that I really love. There's a whole world of podcasts out there to listen to support you as a parent. And I'd love for you to listen into the one that I co-host with 4 other hand-in-hand parenting instructors from around the world. It's called Tales from the Toolbox. There's Parental as Anything with Maggie Dent, the Hand-in-Hand Parenting podcast, Mindful Parenting in a Messy World, lots of great podcasts out there. There are some apps to support you with your mindfulness and self-care. Facebook groups can be a beautiful way to find a virtual village, and websites are a great source of information. There's so much out there. Finding time to access it is, of course, the tricky part. So I really trust that you will take what you need, treat it like a beautiful big box of chocolates, and just pick whatever you've got space for. And I am sure that knowing you've got this in your inbox with all of these resources might prove useful over time. So it may not be useful right now, but in the future, when you've got a little bit more space, or when you face a particular issue, you might remember, oh, that's right, there was some information there that I can access. In summary, parents are doing their best within a culture and society that doesn't always support them in ways that help. Self-care means prioritizing our needs, and self-compassion is a practice of kindness. We looked at 3 steps to self-compassion, that really simple 3-step model, and we looked at the joy matrix, also a really simple way to prioritize self-care, plus some other key self-care ideas. And finally, I introduced you to the idea of listening partnerships from hand-in-hand parenting, which are tailor-made to take the stress out of parenting, and something that I really would love for you to have an experience of, particularly a practice of, because the magic of listening partnerships happens over time. Really appreciate it if you fill in the poll. There's a link that I'll send to you via email if you're listening into this recording, and we'd love to see you at upcoming talks and workshops with Miralinga. Thank you so much for all your hard work as a parent. Your work is absolutely vital. It's so important. You are the sun, moon, and stars to your children, and what you're doing every day is just pivotal to building a more peaceful, connected world. So thank you so much for everything you do as a parent.